It was a cold, rainy evening in the city. The sky was dark, and the streets were almost empty. Most shops were closed, and people had gone home early to stay warm. Officer John Miller was driving slowly in his police car, watching the roads. He had been working all day and was tired, but his job wasn't over yet. As he turned a quiet corner near an old grocery store, he saw someone standing alone near the wall. It was a young black woman. She wore a long black coat and held a small purse. Her eyes looked straight ahead, calm but unreadable. She didn't move when his car passed her. Officer John slowed down and looked at her again. "What is she doing here at this time?" he said to himself. The store behind her was closed. The whole block was silent. He parked the car and stepped out. Rain hit his shoulders, and water dripped from his hat. He walked towards her. "Excuse me, miss," he said. "Why are you standing here?" The woman looked at him with a calm face. "I'm just waiting," she said softly. "Waiting for what?" John asked. She gave a small smile. "You'll know soon." Officer John didn't like the answer. He had seen many cases before, people standing outside shops pretending to wait, but planning something else. Robbery, drug deals, or worse. "I need to see your ID," he said. The woman opened her purse slowly and handed him a card. It was a state ID. Her name was Amara Gray. There was no address on it. "Where do you live?" he asked. She replied, "Around here." "Which street?" I said, "Around here." Her answers were short, and that made John more suspicious. He called for backup, even though there was no real crime. Something didn't feel right. He asked her more questions, but she stayed calm like she wasn't afraid at all. Then he said, "Put your hands behind your back." "Why?" she asked. "You're not answering clearly." "I believe you're hiding something." She looked at him deeply for the first time. Her eyes didn't show fear. Instead, she said something he didn't expect. "You don't know who I am?" "But you will." He thought she was just being clever. He handcuffed her and put her in the back seat of his car. She didn't fight. She didn't speak another word. She just looked out the window. At the police station, she was fingerprinted. They found no criminal record. Still, Officer John kept her in holding for the night, thinking he'd deal with it in the morning. "She's probably lying about her name," he told the desk sergeant. "We'll figure it out tomorrow." But the next day, everything changed. The courtroom was busy the next morning. A big drug case was scheduled, and many officers were there. John had come early to give a report on another case, but something else caught his eye. People were standing and whispering in the hallway. "Who's the new judge?" one man asked. "I don't know. I heard she just moved here," another replied. John entered the courtroom and took his seat. He opened his file and waited. Then the door behind the bench opened, and the judge walked in. He looked up and dropped his pen. It was her, the same woman he had arrested last night, but now she wore a black judge's robe. She stood tall, confident. Her eyes scanned the courtroom and landed on him. For 1 second she paused. Then she spoke clearly. "Court is now in session. Please be seated." Officer John couldn't believe it. How is this possible, he thought. How can a woman I arrested last night be a judge today? He pulled out his phone and quickly searched her name again, Judge Amara Gray. This time there were results. She had been appointed just 1 week ago. A rising star in law, a brilliant mind, known for her calm, sharp thinking. Some called her the silent fire. John's heart raced. Was it a mistake? Did I arrest a judge? A real judge? He felt sweat on his neck. Everyone in the room was watching. The case, but John couldn't stop staring at her. She spoke with power, handled the case with ease, and even corrected a lawyer's argument. She was clearly smart and clearly in control. When the case ended, people began to leave. John walked up to the front of the courtroom, nervous but determined. "Your Honor," he said, Can I speak to you privately? She looked at him with that same calm expression. Meet me in chambers, she said. Inside her office, the air was quiet. Books lined the walls and the desk was neat. She sat down and waited for him to speak. I didn't know, he began. I didn't know who you were last night. I know, she replied. You looked suspicious. Standing alone. She raised an eyebrow. Standing while black? John froze. He had no answer. She leaned forward. You judged me in seconds. You didn't ask real questions. You didn't care who I was. John swallowed hard. I'm sorry. Truly. Amara looked at him for a long moment. You thought I was no one. But I am someone, and you're not the first person to do that to me. He lowered his eyes. Then, she said something strange. This was just the beginning. John looked up. What do you mean? She stood up and walked to the door. You'll see. The past doesn't stay quiet forever. With that, she opened the door and walked out, leaving John standing there, shocked and full of questions. Officer John couldn't stop thinking about her. All day at the station, her face stayed in his mind, calm, powerful, and full of secrets. He had arrested her like any other stranger. But now, he knew she was not just anyone. She was Judge Amara Gray. Still, something didn't feel right. Why was she standing outside that closed store late at night? Why did she let herself get arrested when she had the power to stop it? And most of all, why did she say, "This is just the beginning"? John sat in his office and opened his computer. He typed her name again. Judge Amara Gray. This time, he went deeper. He found articles from newspapers, a few law school blogs, a magazine headline that said, "The mystery judge who rose from nowhere." He clicked it. Amara Gray is one of the youngest and most respected new judges in the state. Her past is private, but it is known she grew up in a small southern town, raised by her grandmother. After graduating law school, she moved to the city. In just 2 years, she earned her place on the bench. Some call her rise unbelievable. Unbelievable, John whispered. That's one word for it. But there were no photos of her as a student, no interviews, no family pictures, just a name, and silence behind it. John called his friend in records, Mark. Can you do me a favor? He asked. What now? Mark replied. Another parking ticket search? No, John said. I want to know everything you can find about a woman named Amara Gray. There was a pause. That's a judge, right? Mark asked, surprised. Why are you digging into a judge? Just curiosity, John replied. All right, Mark said. Give me some time. Later that night, Mark called back. Hey! I looked, he said. Something's off. What do you mean? There are no childhood records, no high school diploma, only a driver's license that was created 5 years ago. John frowned. That's impossible. Exactly. It's like she didn't exist before 5 years ago. But she said she grew up in a small town. Well, Mark said, there's one more thing. I found an old arrest file from 6 years ago. It's sealed, almost deleted, but I managed to pull it up. The woman looks exactly like Judge Gray. John's heart raced. What's her name? Alicia Brown. That night, John sat in his apartment, staring at the photo on his laptop. It was a mugshot, an old one. But the woman's face was the same. Her eyes, her nose, the small scar near her lip. It was Amara. Only, back then she wasn't Amara Gray. She was Alicia Brown. He opened the file. Alicia had been arrested for shoplifting and resisting arrest. She had no lawyer. She spent 30 days in jail. Then, she disappeared. No job records, no family contact, nothing. John leaned back in his chair, confused. Why would a woman who once sat in a jail cell now sit behind a judge's bench? And why change her name? The next morning, John went to the courthouse again. Judge Amara was not on the schedule that day, but he waited in the lobby, hoping to see her. Around noon, she walked out of her office with a file in her hand. "Judge Gray," he called. She stopped. Her eyes showed no surprise. "You found something, didn't you?" "Yes," John said. "Your name used to be Alicia." She looked at him carefully. Then with a small nod, she said, "Yes, it was." "You were arrested," he added. 6 years ago." She didn't deny it. "I was young, poor, alone," she said. "I made one mistake. I paid for it. Then I changed everything." "But why hide it?" he asked. "Why create a new name?" She looked away. "Because no one gives second chances to girls like Alicia." But Amara. She could go further. She could open doors that Alicia never could. John didn't speak. He knew she was right. Then she turned to him. "Are you going to report me?" "I don't know yet," he admitted. "You should ask yourself." "Why I stood outside that night," she said. "I was waiting for something, for someone, and I found exactly what I needed." "What do you mean?" he asked. She didn't answer. She just said, "Ask about the Hawkins case. That's where it all began." Before he could speak again, she walked away. Back at the station, John searched for the Hawkins case. It was an old file, 7 years ago. A robbery gone wrong. A local store owner had blamed a young black girl. There was no real proof. But she was arrested and jailed anyway. The name of the girl? Alicia Brown. And the arresting officer? John stared at the screen, Officer Daniel Hawkins, his old mentor. Officer John sat alone in the small file room at the police station. The room smelled like old paper and dust. Yellow folders filled the shelves and broken boxes were stacked in the corners. Most officers hated going in there, but John needed answers. He searched for the Hawkins case, just like Judge Amara, or Alicia, had told him. "Come on, where are you?" he whispered, moving folder after folder. Finally, he found it. A thin folder marked Case Number 879, Hawkins Robbery. He opened it and felt a cold chill run through his body. The file told a short story. 7 years ago, a small electronics shop was robbed. The owner said he saw a young black girl running out with a phone in her hand. No cameras, no witnesses, but Officer Daniel Hawkins had arrested a teenager within an hour. Her name? Alicia Brown. The report said she refused to speak and looked guilty. No stolen phone was ever found. Still, Alicia spent 30 days in jail. No lawyer, no one to defend her. John remembered Officer Hawkins well. He was a hard man, tough on the streets, always chasing suspects. Everyone respected him back then. He trained many new officers, including John, but something in this report didn't feel right. It was too short, too simple, and it didn't have any photos or signed witness statements, just Officer Hawkins' words. John flipped through the folder. Then, he noticed something strange. At the very back, stuck to another page, was a torn piece of paper. It wasn't part of the report. It looked like a note. John pulled it free. On it were 2 handwritten lines. She wasn't the one. "I told them. They didn't care." MH, John whispered. "Who was that?" He checked the officer list from that year. Only one person had those initials, Marcia Hill, a junior officer who worked under Hawkins. The next morning, John drove across town to find Marcia Hill. She had retired 3 years ago and now worked at a small library. He walked in and found her arranging books on a shelf. "Officer Hill?" he asked. She turned slowly. "I haven't heard that name in a long time." "I'm John Miller. I worked under Hawkins. I have a question. About a case from 7 years ago. The Alicia Brown case." Her face changed. "I remember. she said quietly. I was there. He showed her the note. You wrote this? She nodded. Yes, I tried to tell the truth, but no one listened. What happened that day? John asked. Marcia looked around to make sure they were alone. Then she spoke in a low voice. That girl, Alicia, she didn't do it. I was at the shop 2 minutes after Hawkins got there. The store owner was nervous. He kept changing his story. First he said it was a boy, then a girl. He never saw a clear face. So why did Hawkins arrest her? John asked. Because she was standing near the street, looking scared. She had just come from school. Wrong place, wrong time. Hawkins didn't care. Did you say anything? I tried. I wrote a report. Said we needed to look for more suspects, but Hawkins removed it. He told me to stay quiet. Said, we need to close this fast. No one cares about one girl. John felt sick. She went to jail because it was easier, Marcia said. And when she got out, she disappeared. John returned to his car and sat for a long time, staring at the dashboard. He had looked up to Hawkins. He had learned from him. But now he realized Hawkins had framed an innocent girl, and that girl became Judge Amara Gray. Later that evening, John visited the courthouse again. He waited outside Amara's chambers. When she saw him, she nodded. You found it, she said. He nodded slowly. You were innocent. I always was, she replied. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because no one would have believed me. Not then. Not with no family, no power. I had to disappear and come back stronger. You became a judge. She smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. Justice has rules, but it also has cracks. I slipped through once. I'm here to fix them now. John looked at her with new respect. You're reopening the case, aren't you? She didn't answer directly. Instead, she handed him a file. Inside were 3 names, people connected to old false arrests, all under Hawkins. This isn't about me anymore, she said. It's about all of them. The courthouse felt different that morning. Quiet. Too quiet. Judge Amara Gray sat alone in her chambers, staring at the names on the file Officer John had just read. Her fingers gently touched each page, as if trying to feel the pain inside the stories. 3 names, 3 people, 3 lives broken, all arrested years ago under one man, Officer Daniel Hawkins. They were all young, poor, and black, and all 3, just like Amara, had no lawyer, no help, and no real proof against them. But now, Amara was no longer Alicia Brown. She had power, she had truth, and she had plans. Across the city, Officer John Miller sat in his car, holding his phone tightly. He had just spoken to Marcia Hill again. There's something else you should know, she had said. Hawkins didn't just arrest people without cause. He made deals. Deals? John asked. Yes, dirty ones. Sometimes with store owners, sometimes with other officers. In exchange for money, protection, or silence. If someone paid him, he'd find someone to blame. Fast. Did anyone know? John whispered. A few of us, but no one dared speak up. If you crossed Hawkins, your career was over. Now John felt the full weight of what Amara had been carrying. Her arrest was never about justice. It was about a deal. He had to find out more. That evening, John met Amara again, not in the courtroom, but at a small cafe downtown. It was quiet with just a few people inside. Amara wore plain clothes, not her judge's robe. She looked more like Alicia now, calm but burning inside. John placed a flash drive on the table. I found recordings. From where? Old patrol car mics. Some still had backup files. I found one where Hawkins told another officer, "Make it fast. I don't care if she did it. I just want it done before the news shows up." Amara closed her eyes. So it's true. He wasn't just crooked, John said. He was evil. And now, she whispered, I want justice, not just for me, for everyone. But going after a former officer wasn't easy. Daniel Hawkins had retired with honors. He now worked in private security and still had powerful friends. If Amara reopened the cases, she could lose everything: her seat, her name, even her future. And worse, people could say she only did it for revenge. "Are you sure you want to do this?" John asked. "I didn't survive jail, change my identity, and fight my way to this chair just to sit quietly," Amara replied. John nodded. "Then I'm with you." But just then, Amara's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She picked it up carefully. "Hello?" A deep voice spoke on the other side. Slow. Cold. "Stop digging into the past, or the past will bury you." The call ended. She froze. John looked at her. "What is it?" She showed him the screen. "Someone's watching." That was a warning. John looked around. "We need to be careful. If Hawkins made deals before, he still has people protecting him." But Amara didn't look afraid. She looked ready. "He buried me once," she said. "I rose. I'm not afraid of the dirt anymore." The next day, John searched police storage for something called Case 935X. It was one of the names on Amara's list. A boy named Tariq Nelson, arrested for breaking into a car. Tariq was only 13. But the report said the door was never broken, and no items were missing. Hawkins still charged him. When John checked the property room records, he found something strange. The car's owner had withdrawn the complaint the next day. But Hawkins filed it anyway. John dug deeper. The car owner? A store owner who once gave money to a police fund that Hawkins created. A fake one. So Hawkins had made another deal. Meanwhile, Amara filed a quiet request to reopen 3 old cases. No one noticed. Not yet. But someone was watching. That night, as she walked to her car, she found something sitting on her windshield. A plain white envelope. Inside was a photo. It was her mugshot, the one from 7 years ago. But someone had written across it in red marker, "A judge with a criminal face." She held the photo tight, took a deep breath, and whispered. The lights in Judge Amara Gray's office were dim. She sat alone, staring at her old mugshot, the one someone left on her car. The red words across her face still echoed in her mind. A judge with a criminal face. But Amara didn't feel fear anymore. She felt fire. The next morning, Amara called Officer John Miller. "We need to talk to the others," she said. "The other victims?" he asked. She nodded. "If I'm going to reopen these cases, I need more than files. I need voices. I need people to speak up. In court. On record." John hesitated. "Some of them might not want to relive it." "Neither did I," Amara said softly. "But silence lets the guilty walk free." John spent the next 2 days tracking down names. The first was Tariq Nelson, the boy falsely arrested at 13. Now 20, Tariq worked as a cook in a small diner. He looked older than his age, tired, worn, like someone who had seen too much. John met him after his shift. "You're a cop?" Tariq asked, folding his arms. "Not like the one who arrested you," John replied. "I'm here because of Judge Amara Gray. She wants justice for what happened to you." Tariq looked confused. "Who?" John showed him a photo. His eyes widened. "I remember her," he said slowly. "She was in the same cell block as me for a few days. They kept her in a corner. She barely spoke, but she gave me her food once. Said I was too young to be hungry." John stared at him. "She remembers you too." Tariq looked away. "I never told anyone. But I didn't steal that car. I was just walking home from school. Officer Hawkins pushed me to the ground, called me names, and said, 'You fit the story.'" His voice cracked. "I lost everything. I didn't go back to school after that. I got scared of the world." John placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's time to speak." The next person was Lena Ross. a quiet mother who was arrested for disrupting peace in a store. She had only asked for a refund. Lena lived in a small apartment with her son. She cried when Amara's name was mentioned. "She knows the truth," Lena said. "I was treated like trash. They cuffed me in front of my child." That day, something inside me broke. John asked her gently, "Would you come to court? Would you speak?" She nodded. "For her? Yes. She's not just a judge. She's one of us." One by one, John helped Amara gather their stories. All of them had different pain, but the same shadow over it. Hawkins. Amara sat in her chambers, reading their words. She saw her past in each one: the cold nights, the fear, the silence, the feeling that no one believed them. But now, someone would listen, and she was the one wearing the robe. But just as she began to prepare the case, a new danger appeared. John called her in a panic. "Amara, someone broke into the police archive last night." "What?" "They stole 3 files, including yours." Her voice went cold. "Hawkins is trying to erase the past." "Yes. And there's more. I got a letter at my desk this morning, no return address." He read it aloud. "Stop helping the girl in the robe, or you'll be the one behind bars next." That night, Amara went to the jail where she once stayed. She sat on a bench outside, staring at the building. A guard walked out and recognized her. "You look different," he said. "I am different," she replied. He paused. "You know, some of the women still talk about you. You gave away your blanket. You stood up for that sick girl. Even locked up, you were a leader." She didn't speak for a moment. Then, with quiet strength, she said, "I didn't belong in there, but maybe I was meant to be there, so I could hear their voices." Guard nodded. They're still waiting for someone to speak for them. Inside the jail, behind the cold steel and cracked paint, stories were still trapped. Amara walked away slowly, but her mission was clear. She would bring those voices to the courtroom. She would bring the truth to light. She would face Hawkins, and all who stood behind him, even if it meant risking everything. It started like a normal morning in the city. The courthouse doors opened. People walked in, papers shuffled, coffee cups steamed in tired hands. But inside courtroom 4B, something powerful was about to happen, something that no one saw coming. For the first time in years, Daniel Hawkins, once the most respected officer in the department, was being called to court, not as a hero, but as the accused. Judge Amara Gray sat tall in her chair, calm, focused, but inside, her heart beat faster than ever before. This was it? The moment she had waited for, since the day she was arrested as a scared teenager named Alicia Brown. Across the room, Hawkins walked in. Gray hair, sharp suit, cold eyes. He didn't look worried. He didn't even look surprised. He smirked, as if to say, "You can't touch me." But the courtroom was full. Tariq Nelson sat in the front row. Lena Ross beside him. Others who had been hurt by Hawkins watched silently, holding back tears. They were no longer alone. Officer John Miller stood near the back, holding a thick folder. Inside were witness statements, audio files, and old case reports, evidence Hawkins thought was long gone. Amara took a deep breath and looked at her clerk. "Call the first witness." Tariq stepped forward. He stood tall, his voice shaking a little. "I was 13. I didn't steal a car. I didn't even know how to drive." Officer Hawkins didn't ask questions. He just grabbed me, pushed me down, called me trash. Some people gasped. I told him I was innocent. He laughed and said, "Doesn't matter. You look guilty enough." Tariq's voice broke. I still hear that voice in my dreams. Next came Lena Ross. I went to a store to return a broken toy. The manager yelled at me. I raised my voice. That's all. Hawkins showed up and told me to act like a lady. Then he arrested me in front of my 5-year-old. My son still remembers that day. She turned to face Hawkins. You ruined something in me. But I'm here now, stronger. One by one, voices filled the courtroom. Old pain became new power. John stepped forward with his final piece of evidence, the old patrol car audio. The courtroom went silent as they played the clip. Hawkins's voice. I don't care if she did it. I just want someone. The press is coming. A low whisper spread through the room. Amara looked directly at Hawkins. You used your badge to destroy lives, she said. You made deals. You silenced truth. You ruined children's futures, including mine. The room went still. For the first time, Hawkins looked nervous. His lawyer stood and tried to fight back. There's no physical proof he took money. These are just old wounds, false stories. Objection, John said from the witness stand. These are not stories. These are records, audio, and people who still carry scars. Amara nodded. Sustained. The lawyer sat down, flustered. When the trial ended that day, no decision was made yet. The court would need more time to go through everything. But something had already changed. The silence was broken. The truth was alive. And the people who once had no voice were now being heard. Outside the courthouse, news cameras waited. Reporters asked questions. Tariq, standing beside Amara, said only one sentence to the crowd. Justice took a long time to wake up. But it's here now. Amara didn't speak. She just looked at the courthouse behind her. Her past was inside those walls, but now, so was her power. Night fell over the city. But for Judge Amara Gray, sleep didn't come. She sat by her window looking out at the quiet streets below. The trial was making headlines. Her face was on the news. People called her brave, strong, but deep inside, she felt a storm because truth has a price. And someone was now making her pay. That morning, Amara's car tires were slashed. There was a note on her windshield again. This time, it said, "Stop before you lose more than a job." She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She took the note, folded it, and put it in her coat pocket. Then she called Officer John. "More threats?" he asked. "Yes," she said quietly. "But they won't stop me." At the same time, strange things started happening. Tariq Nelson got fired from his diner job without reason. Lena Ross came home to find her mailbox smashed. John found his. Computer files deleted at work. All evidence of Hawkins' wrongdoings gone. Someone was cleaning the mess, and they were fast. John met with Amara at a private cafe that evening. "They're trying to scare you," he said, "or wear you down." Amara stirred her tea. "They don't understand. I've already been broken before. What's left now is steel." "But this is bigger than we thought," John said. "It's not just Hawkins. He had friends. In high places. Judges, detectives, businessmen. If he falls, others fall too." Amara looked up, her eyes calm but sharp. "Then let them fall." Later that week, something worse happened. Amara received a letter from the Judicial Ethics Board. It claimed someone had reported her, accusing her of bias, dishonesty, and unfit behavior. If the board acted on it, she could be suspended or even removed from her seat. It was Hawkins's final card, destroy her name, if you can't stop her truth. That night, Amara sat in her dark office, the lights off, the room silent. She opened an old folder. Inside was her mugshot, her arrest record, her broken story. She touched the paper slowly. "Maybe they're right," she whispered to herself. "Maybe I don't belong here." Then she heard a knock. It was Tariq. He stepped in, nervous but strong. "I heard about the board." Amara nodded. Tariq placed something on her desk. It was a small photo. Him as a 13-year-old, smiling before his arrest. This is what they took from me, he said. But thanks to you, I'm getting it back. He paused. So don't. Give up, Judge, please, for people like me. Those words hit her heart. She looked at the photo, then at him. She smiled softly. I won't stop, she said. Not now. Not ever. The next morning, Amara walked into the courthouse, head high, robe flowing. She submitted her response to the ethics board. No fear, no lies, just truth. I was once a victim of the system, she wrote. Now I work to fix it, not for revenge, but for justice. In court that day, the final part of the case was heard. More voices came forward. Old records surfaced from a retired clerk who kept copies, just in case the real files disappeared. And Hawkins? For the first time, he looked scared, because truth, once quiet, was now roaring. The courthouse was packed. Reporters, victims, police officers, families, cameras. Everyone had one question. Would Daniel Hawkins walk free? Or fall at last? Judge Amara Gray walked through the main doors. She wore her robe like armor. Her eyes were steady. Her past, her pain, her power, all walked beside her. Behind her, Tariq, Lena, and others followed quietly. Not as victims anymore, but as witnesses to justice. Inside the courtroom, the jury had reached a decision. 12 people, 12 minds. All had listened to the stories. All had seen the truth come out. Hawkins sat with his lawyer. He wasn't smiling now. His hands shook. Sweat rolled down his neck. The judge reading the verdict stood. In the case of Officer Daniel Hawkins, charged with abuse of power, falsifying arrests, and destroying lives, the room held its breath. We find the defendant guilty on all counts. Gasps, cries, silence, then clapping. People hugged each other. Tariq covered his mouth in shock. Lena cried softly. Hawkins sat frozen. No words, just silence. The silence of a man who never thought this day would come. But it was loud. Amara didn't show much emotion, but her hand gripped the bench tightly. She had waited her whole life for this moment. She looked down at Hawkins one last time. You didn't just break laws, she said quietly. You broke people. Then she stood up, removed her robe slowly, and walked out of the courtroom, not because she lost, but because she had finished what she came to do. 2 weeks later. The ethics board dropped all charges against Amara. The false claims were exposed as a smear campaign by Hawkins's allies. In fact, Amara was now being invited to speak at legal events. Her name had become a symbol of strength. But she didn't want fame. She wanted change. She started a new program at the courthouse called Voices First. It helped people who had been mistreated by the system, especially the poor and unheard, to speak up, find lawyers, and reopen old cases. Tariq became the first youth mentor in the program. Lena joined to help mothers in need. Their pain had become their power. One evening, Amara sat in her old neighborhood. The bench was still there, the one outside the jail, where she once sat as a scared teenager. Now she sat there as a judge who changed the city. A little girl walked by and stared at her. Are you that lady on TV? She asked. Amara smiled. Maybe. Did you used to be in jail? Yes, she said softly. The girl tilted her head. But now you're a judge? Amara nodded. The girl grinned. Cool. She ran off. Amara looked up at the sky. Peaceful. Quiet. She whispered, sometimes the world puts you in a box, but you can always break out and build your own bench.